What is like a typical creative process for Jay? What is like from client approaching you to giving you the brief to you taking down, doing your research, maybe building your sketch, your mood board, and then like the final piece?
So usually the projects that I currently work on, they are really long-term projects. So it's a bit flexible because they might give me a job that's like maybe due in like 3 months or in 2 months or something like that. So I have a bit of time, but I never let that get to me and be like, oh, this is like far. So I usually get it done within the first 2 to 3 weeks. So what I do is I get a project and before accepting it, I always read and try to visualize exactly where this is gonna end. Because there are some projects because you feel that you have the skills and you're good, you just immediately accept it, but later you see that way, this is actually difficult and this is way too much for the money they are paying me. So I always take a while to reply to my clients and stuff like that because I try to imagine everything to the end goal and see the job process involved. And if I like it and if it's gonna be an interesting one, I accept it. And the first thing I do is I forget I have the job immediately. Because if you constantly think about it, the mind is funny. If you are constantly thinking about something, sometimes you don't get the craziest idea. You need to be a bit absent for it to spark.
Okay.
And then for you to get back into it. So I usually distract myself in the first couple of days. Maybe I watch movies or I go outside, I go to the gym or something like that, just distracting myself. But I have it at the back of my mind. Like I have the Photoshop interface in my mind, just placing stuff around and thinking. So when I sit behind the computer, I already know everything that I want to do before I start moving my mouse. So I am someone who likes to plan everything before starting something, basically. That is my process.
Yeah. And you do that here in your head?
Yeah,
because you mentioned that
I'm always working and Photoshop clicking around in my head.
Say you got a gig today, where are you starting from and then the end?
Honestly, most of the time I have raw dogged it. Because most of the gigs I've gotten or I keep getting, most of them are like impromptu.
Okay.
Have to work within a certain period and So in those instances, like the very first thing that comes to mind, I just note it down, run it by the clients to see if it's something that they'll be interested in, and then I just start creating. So, in that instances, like instead of spending time to perhaps maybe write down the idea, storyboard it, do a lot of different things. In that instance where I have to work within that short period, I just start working. So perhaps maybe I'll be thinking to do the storyboard. Let's say I'm just doing it in the moment. So I just create and most of the work some of you have seen and are like, hey, this thing is client is stressing me. Stress me. So I just had to do quickly. But when I have time, I jot down a couple of ideas and then I look through them and then see which ones are like feasible and are the best. Because most of the time I put down some ideas I can't do. So I get the ones that are possible, run them by the client, they choose one, and then I expand on that creative idea. I write down perhaps the storyline it would take or the marketing that it could do, that kind of thing, and then storyboard. And then sometimes I run it by some of my creative partners like Messiah and Boka and Ivy before I even go ahead to create.
I mean, I get a client. What would be like the several? You said something about discovery, and so that means you kind of take them through a process.
Yeah, I think so. Yeah.
So what would that look like?
So I think first of all, the process, like it always varies because design is so personal that there's no one size fit all solution. But typically, I will start with the why. Why is to understand what you're trying to do. Like, what do you want to do? Why do you want to do it? And just get a good sense of what the project is. Typically, I would create a design brief so that I understand exactly what we're trying to achieve. And I have this simple thing that I usually use to create that. It's a who, what, where, how, why formula, and I'm sure you're familiar with it. So once I go through all that, I understand everything. Next is to set up timelines. When do we start? When do we check in middle? When is the deadline? For me, the most important thing is the deadline. Because once I know when you need it, I can arrange everything else on my plate, right? And also because I'm very forgetful, it can be very easy for me to like overwhelm myself with work and forget that we have to do something, right? So we go through that process first, trying to understand what you're trying to do. And then I also try to understand what success looks like for you. So if we are on this project, what does success look like for you? And they're able to say that, oh, success looks like this for me. Success looks like that for me. And then I put that down. And that will be like my targets. If this project is going to go great, we need to make sure that this and this is checked. And then that's pretty much it. From there on, it's just me trying to be friends with you because I really value the relationship, and nothing coming from me is a command. It's more like a suggestion and a recommendation. And I share my process. I share the things we're doing. Sometimes we hop on the call to design together if you have time. Hey, Charlie, check this out. I'm trying to do this. I think this might work. And then let me show you. And then I show them, I take them behind the scenes. They see some of the work and all that.
So what I first do is I go sit down, think about it. Like I said, I mean, I'm not making, I'll be talking to myself, trying to understand how I deliver the video. Then do research, right? Try and see if there are other people who have done similar videos like that to gain inspiration from, to see how I deliver it. I'm not just looking for any other person who has done that video. I'm looking for someone who has done that video, has some good interaction, views, numbers on that video. Then I'll proceed to do similar, right? Pick pointers from there and then sit down and then start shooting.
I've been asking people about their creative process when it comes to design, but today I want to hear like the music side of things. How is it like? Do you hear the beat before you come and rise?
It could be out of anything. So, luckily for me, so I do have the gift of songwriting. So most of my songs I've written myself. Okay. And so it could be out of the mundane. I could hear something and go like, Charlie, intro way. Or so it depends. That's why you need to have a very good band who can read you. My band, solid guys. They put on something, I go like, it's crazy. This guy, Obin King, he's my producer. Oh, that guy can just drop a beat and like try to get verse for him. So I'm surrounding myself with people like that. So my creative process is pretty simple. Some of the songs I write are from testimonies, personal testimonies. So some of them I'm very attached to the music I make. Some of them too is just like scriptures that God wants interpreted in a different way. You feel the vibe is called from Matthew 6. So even the birds in the sky and the fish in the sea, he clothes, like he takes care of them. How much more you, like your Father in heaven. But people don't want to do the work. They just love the beats. And I respect that, Charlie. You spoiled it. But after you go one leg to the left side, why don't you check the lyrics out? And go like, Charlie, hey, boy. And my music goes through a very tough process because by the time I'm done, I have to defend it to people. But my management, so the music has to pass through them. They have to listen to it and scrutinize the lyrics and the words and the this and the that. So every day I have to come ready. Okay. So I can't just present any song to my team. They need to know that, okay, Nanaya is convicted about this. And one thing I love about them is that they've trusted me with the creativity and goes like, okay, Nanaya, we want to follow your lead, but we need you to be accountable to us. And that has taught me a lot. So that's my creative process. I could hear a beat, we put something together. I could hear something, we put something together and we go. It's really not, it's fluid.
One project you've worked on, you can pick anyone. They walk us through like the process, what was like from the interaction with the client to like the final.
New Balance.
So let's talk about New Balance. You did that with Kwesi Boche too,
yes. Right? Yeah. New Balance is, I have a lot of favorites, honestly, but I think it's one of my favorite in the sense that there was that freedom to create. And, normally when you're working with clients, everyone it's like, honestly, every client, if they are paying you, they know what they want. So it's like, we are not coming to be, Raygan is my friend. No, let's just get straight to work. Deliver the work and let's just go. And how it even happened, it was just by grace because this guy, we had met on LinkedIn. Again, LinkedIn is one of the best to use, and we had met on LinkedIn. He was looking for a copywriter, so already he wasn't looking for whatever thing. So we just had a Zoom call. We had a very good conversation, and I remember after the conversation, I love whenever I'm talking to you, we might be talking about maybe A. By the time we're in B, and the B would connect to the A. So he was talking about copyright. I'm like, oh yeah, I'm down for it. So he was happy. I sent, because my background is PR, so I did mass comm in school. So it's all part of it, like mass comm. So copywriting I could do, but I really don't want to act like I can do copywriting. So I realized that when we were having the conversation, when he said, I was like, oh sure. So he's like, send me your CV. I sent it to him instantly. He read through. He's like, he will connect me with his landing team. Then he's like, okay. I realized that also you do some form of shoe. What do you do? I'm like, oh yeah, then I think I've done only some few projects, but one of the major one was also Mercedes-Benz. And he's like, I really love that project. And were you the one who then I'm like, oh, I was the producer on the job, He's like, and it was during COVID. I was like, yeah. So I think he was very interested for the fact that we shot after the whole lockdown, and during that period, everything was a bit a mess. So he was like, so how did you guys, and now I was really, of course, now when you get a chance, just sell yourself. So I was really selling myself, like, I'll get back to you. So that was it. After 3 days, I was there, I had an email from him, but then the email this time, he had CC'd me with the landing team, and they were like, they wanted to do something. They want to do a campaign, but I need to sign an NDA. So for me, I always say this to people. I don't know. Whenever I hear NDA, I know that it's a good project. So I was like, no, let me sign. But then again, you need to have like a very good person, whether it's a lawyer, I always ask creative. Sometimes it's very expensive to have a lawyer, but now there are also some good lawyers out there who would willing to do things pro bono or whatever for you. So William, being a good friend, a good business partner, we came together. I read it with him. He's like, you know what, it's a good thing, just sign. I signed it. Now the next thing, they sent a brief. And the first night I saw Sadio Mane. This is me where the thing is, I'm really not a big sports fan, that I'm not going to lie. It's now that I read more about sports, because I'm working on a sports project and all that. But I'm really not like someone that you see me. I'm fighting. No. Like if I'm watching football and the line goes, I'll sleep. Like
if
it's really not that
I don't
deep.
care.
Yeah, like how people on Twitter, you guys are fighting. No, you never see me. So I was like, Sadio Mane, I've heard of this guy, but I really didn't know much about him. So right there, I just had to go do my research. I'm like, oh wow. And his story was really inspiring, that where he comes from, Senegal, and having to get to Europe and all that. I was like, wow, this is good. And the brief really connected with his growth.
Okay.
So as soon as I saw, I remember the first thing I said, I was like, thank you, Lord. And I was in a rush just to reply them. Yeah. But I remember they were like, go through it and get back to us before the end of the day.
Okay.
So I went through it with the team, and I was like, you know what? This is actually a good project. Because again, if you give me a football, I can't even play. But I grew up in a space where my cousins, my uncles were very stubborn with football. Like they'll come home with their dirty socks and jerseys. They'll come hanging. So I saw that thing very as a pictorial thing. And for me, that's even how I learned. I'm not the kind of person always, I need to be in class. But if I say in class, if I'm talking to you one-on-one, everything that you said, I could remember, Raygan did this. Oh, wow. Yeah, that's how I visualized things. So I remember I saw all these things, how my grandma, my aunties would be fighting with them. Like, I didn't know, why is your socks dirty? They'll come hanging. So when I saw red sand and all that in that brief, I was like, you know what, creative direction wise, how do we go about? Because again, it was one of the most of my favorite, but also one of the most challenging project, because all the production that I did before that was more like having models. You cast them, a photographer, a videographer shoot them. But they said no models, no hand, no foot. It's just the boots, because we were selling the boots and the football. How do you shoot that? And I was like, wow, this is actually so I was like, I remember how they used to hang out their socks and all that. Why don't I? So I remember writing, I went on Pinterest, put together some images, wrote some like taglines on it. Because also, again, it's not just going on Pinterest, because every inspiration is never new. So whatever inspiration you have, you need to also read more. So with my low risk, I remember, red sand, when you walk around anywhere in Accra or anywhere in Africa, it's red sand. And they didn't want to portray it as if it was shot in Ghana, it was shot in Africa. Or someone should say me like, we went to Senegal. And people thought we shot in Ghana. So I had to put all that together, sent it to them. After like an hour before maybe 5 their time, UK time, they replied me, we love this. And I was like, wow. So like right there, I felt very humbled because also that was my first time ever a client having to say yes to, because always they bring the ideas and you also just get a team together. But this is more like your idea and they also sign it off. So yeah, we did the project and it was really exciting.